The ECOWAS secrets you should know.
The military takeover that took place in the 4 ECOWAS member states of Burkina Faso, Guinea-Conakry, Mali, and Niger were all instigated by this mounting army of youth unemployment, high cost of living in the ordinary household and family, increasing debt burden, ethno-tribal tension, religious insurgencies tagged as Islamic terrorists by Europeans who know West Africans or claim to know West African better than West Africans themselves. National tension, social insecurity, economic instability, and political apathy. In the face of the above, the heads of states of the failing ECOWAS member states resorted to inviting foreign forces to help deal with the mounting insecurity in total disregard to how the oppressed feel about foreign forces on their land. In fact, most West Africans naturally believe they are suffering poverty, that the Europeans and to some extent Americans are living their affluence because West Africans are poor. So West African, which is natural, the poor man always believe the rich man live his affluent life at the expense of the poor one. Yes, it's just natural. Anywhere you see a poor man and a rich man, this is how the poor see the rich. And the Europeans are rich as nations, as individuals. This reflects well on them. And if moreover, when you look at Europe in general, there is barely nothing. And therefore, there is that either false or legitimate impression that the wealth from the West African and the African continent is what sustains Europe. I have a different take on that, but it makes sense for anyone to believe that is the case, given that the people of West Africa are now even working hard and struggling and dying just to migrate into Europe to have a chance. So everyone from any part of Europe in West Africa is seen as an enemy. And worse still, people believe that the leaders that are inviting the foreign soldiers on their land, which really doesn't make sense, given that the idea and the concern about slavery, and that there was slavery and Europeans colonized and all those things, that is there in the mind of the ordinary man. Therefore, to see the Europeans again on the land holding weapons, being invited by a leader that nobody seems to like, that is in office, and everyone is doubting his legitimacy. And here we are, inviting foreigners to protect him. That is how West Africans feel. And therefore, there are those who seriously believe the foreign forces are there to deal with the locals and suppress them on their own land. The word Islamist terrorists become justification for having foreign forces in most West African states, rather than addressing the issues that has led these people into that hopeless situation. We have soldiers. When the soldiers become the solution to economic problems, that is in West Africa, and that is becoming a norm, you are not addressing the fundamental problem that is causing poverty. Because you can't address that problem with the solution in terms of exporting natural resources and importing finished goods, creating mass unemployment, and in addition to that, taking foreign loans and getting foreigners with their technology to be developing the land while the locals sit down looking at them. It doesn't work. The fact, as mentioned earlier, for the position of ECOWAS is to have leadership by democratic approach and to sustain the unity of the states concerned in order to avoid anarchy. The position of ECOWAS, whose regional members of parliament do not get their mandate directly from the electorate to the ECOWAS parliament, appear to be democracy by imposition. And therefore, when the ECOWAS is insisting people should be democratic, and the meaning of democracy is all about the president and not about the real plight of the people, or the parliament of the ECOWAS that doesn't even exist. It brings concerns. Although the reversal of the military takeover automatically implied the reinstatement of the deposed head of state that translate into reinstatement of the dissolved legislative arm of the member states, the frustrated nationals see the ECOWAS position as fighting the corner of just the deposed head of state at the expense of everyone else, because the people don't even realize that when the military take over, they automatically dissolve the parliament. So when the president is reinstated, the parliamentarians will also have their seats. In West Africa, parliamentarians means nothing to us. Dictator, the bigger fish, that is the president, which is wrong. But we also believe that that is the case because of the situation. The president has the pot in front of him. He shares everything. There's not enough to go around for people to see what the parliament and other institutions of their states are doing. And in most cases, since the president is the only one in charge of everything, institutions are not working, then even judges are cornered by the president because they all economically depend on the presidential office directly to sustain their privileges. Else, the president can cut anything. The president is like a dictator, even though elected. The teeming marginalized population find themselves siding with the coup plotters in giving them legitimacy against the deposed leader on whose side the ECOWAS seems to be. The demand by the ECOWAS to reinstate the deposed leader automatically make the ECOWAS the enemy of the masses, whose sole role is to ensure the people are subject to poverty forever. So people see the ECOWAS on the bad side. They don't see the ECOWAS as working for them. They don't see the ECOWAS as worried about what is going on in Sudan, and everyone is divided. That could lead to the refugee crisis. That could lead to so many other things. And it is better in this sense to have one man sitting there. That is the wisdom of ECOWAS. But ECOWAS doesn't realize that one man sitting there changed nothing. He doesn't really add value out of it. When you keep him there, the people continue to suffer. When they remove him, there may be anarchy. So while ECOWAS is focusing on that, keeping people just in the condition where they are, people are tired, the electorates are tired, the masses are tired, the system of member states of ECOWAS are tired, and they are looking for a way to get themselves out of that situation. And out of that desperation, they cannot even connect the lawlessness, the anarchy, the chaos that could come out when the head of state is no more in charge and you have everyone doing what they like, or divided nation. The worst part is that the military rulers automatically see the foreign soldiers, and this another thing after they've taken over government, invited by the deposed leaders as enemies, thereby asking them to leave. The demand on the foreign soldiers that have been there for almost a generation or two are now asked to leave. It can be a challenge. The ECOWAS again suffer further negative score and blame for being in bed with foreign occupiers, as the demand to have the deposed leader reinstated automatically translate into keeping the foreign forces in the member states. It's a very difficult one. And ECOWAS has always found itself in that situation. It happened in Guinea, it happened in Mali, it happened in Burkina Faso. The recent development in West Africa following the Niger military takeover, tilted the table beyond the norm for the ECOWAS in her effort to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. In addition to the sanction imposed on Niger, whose dependency on Nigeria was very high economically and to some extent politically, there was attempt to use military force to reinstate the deposed leader. unlike other coups, Niger, Mali, and Guinea. Unlike the other coups where the worst the ECOWAS has done is to impose sanctions on the member states while engaging in diplomacy to resolve the impasse. The attempt to engage in the use of the military from member states to remove the coup plotters seemed to be an act too far for those who have taken over the government. The French forces' position again didn't help situation of refusing to leave the country as claiming they do not recognize the coup plotters as the legitimate leaders of Niger and rather engage in insisting Mohamed Bazoum, the deposed president, has to be reinstated, which made French position and the ECOWAS position of wanting the former president to be reinstated, as the French were doing the same, to align against the position of the favored majority of the Nigerians. The slogan that ECOWAS that is in bed with the French exists to only serve corrupt leaders now became common thing to almost everyone, even people from outside West Africa, South Africa, the blacks in Europe, in America. Everyone started shouting and blaming the ECOWAS and accusing the ECOWAS for being in bed with the European Union and France and the America at the expense of the nationals of ECOWAS. We had so many people who overnight became activists demanding that ECOWAS must back off. While these were going on, the leaders of Mali and Burkina Faso have also asked the French to leave and has sanctions placed on them by the ECOWAS to reinstate their deposed head of state, increase their cooperation with Niger as they share a common fate. They are our co-plotters. They all want to keep their military officers in place and have preference and foreign soldiers gone for good. Well, the people will always side with coup plotters. There's never been a time where there's a coup in my lifetime that the people never sided with the coup plotters against the civilian rulers who are presumed to be nothing but corrupt. They are very dishonest and they are very, very arrogant. Just listen to them. When you listen to our elected politicians, either when they are vying for office or when they are in office, the only thing they do is to mislead the people. And at the end of the day, they do nothing. And sometimes they live in their own world, in defending the indefensible. What kind of a politician is so arrogant to use the state's money to buy a goat, recorded an amount for a cow. So they paid the goat owner the price of a goat and ended up with the price of a cow. And they still defended the cow. This is where people are tired of this dishonesty and they call the West African politicians corrupt. Everybody called them corrupt. The rumor that the French, under the guise of the European Union again, is planning to invade her former colonies through the ECOWAS member state was not taken lightly by the military heads of state of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. This was worsened by the announcement of the State or Republic of Ghana receiving military armored vehicle from Germany very recently. There is also an announcement that the ECOWAS Commission President Aliou Touré is in Brussels on military aid to reinstate democracy rule in West African, and therefore gave the coup plotters no choice than to denounce their membership of ECOWAS, since the only reason why ECOWAS is insisting ECOWAS is a stakeholder in the business of the member states because of democracy. That's all. And that is unfortunate. The ECOWAS itself is supposed to be democratic to legitimize that position. The ECOWAS cannot continue to pretend to believe in democracy when ECOWAS itself is not democratic. Democracy in ECOWAS without the people directly voting for the members of the ECOWAS parliament cannot be said to be democratic. That That is not democratic. There is also a case we shouldn't forget when the president of Ghana met with the Americans and raised the concern that the Wagner group, the Russian forces, who are now replacing the French soldiers, since there is that hype that there are insurgencies, and then there are concerns that the French soldiers are arming the locals to rise against their own government. Of course, there will always be people who want to fight, and that is now bringing serious problem, concern with everyone. The video was there when President Akufo-Addo was seen talking to the Americans and asking them to come in and help with the security activities of Ghana against Burkina Faso, when that was not the case. Burkina Faso, yes, they have Russian forces in Burkina Faso, and they have them in Mali while the French were asked to leave. So the announcements of the trio to leave the ECOWAS was actually historical. The announcement demystified the myth of the ECOWAS membership by force in line with an unwritten United Nations law. Will nobody sign any law of that nature? The announcement is an eye-opener that West Africans own their ECOWAS. ECOWAS don't belong to anyone. It informed both the ECOWAS and West Africans that their membership of the regional body is an voluntary association of willing partnership in which the benefit of the membership is subject to evaluation by the nationals of member states. It exposes the ECOWAS as an insensitive body that is careless about what the average West African is going through. For far too long, we of the ECOWAS Citizens Right Advocate, ECRA or EDRA, ECOWAS Citizens Democratic Right Advocate, have been appealing to the West Africans electorate to join us in mounting pressure on the ECOWAS for the electorate of the member states to be voting directly for their ECOWAS MPs, so that ECOWAS will be a credible union and the union of the people. Our call have fallen on deaf ears because the average West African believe nothing can change the ECOWAS. They believe ECOWAS is now like the creation of God, backed by Europeans whose destiny and fate has been sealed in heaven. It is only in our ECOWAS where nationals of the 15 member states pay tax to the ECOWAS but excluded from voting directly for their regional lawmakers, whose role is to determine how the tax is used. What we always have is that we have the part-time members of parliament of each country going to the ECOWAS to sign on behalf of the nationals of their member states, to go and sign that yes, the people of the country are ready to pay more tax to the ECOWAS, which is not the case. We don't vote for members of Ghana parliament to go to ECOWAS. We vote for the members of the Ghanaian parliament. We have 8 seats to go to Ghana parliament, not to the ECOWAS parliament. This is a fraud. The announcement by the trio to leave the ECOWAS is a big blow, but not totally hopeless. If we are able to get the West African electorate to join us in putting pressure on the ECOWAS, the fact that the military rulers have acted unilaterally in removing the population of their countries from the union without consulting their people first is a clear indication of business as usual. So there's no difference between the military rulers and the civilian dictators. We are having another 3 dictators in uniform replacing the civilian dictators in suit. Because anyone who doesn't believe in the right of citizens to vote for those who represent them in an institution like ECOWAS directly, that person is nothing but a dictator. We were not asked West Africans were not asked. When no country, nobody was asked as to whether we want to be part of the ECOWAS or we don't want to be. No, we just found ourselves one day claiming we are members of the ECOWAS, which was maybe our circumstances demand that. But over 50 years of the existence of the ECOWAS, with no one voting directly for those to represent us as members of parliament in the ECOWAS, leave a lot of questions to be answered. The coincidence that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are all landlocked countries implied the ECOWAS with 12 member coastal states still have the upper hands. The Europeans and the Americans are also in place to tighten up sanctions against the military-ruled nations to make matters worse. So they don't even have access to the sea. Again, they find themselves under serious sanctions because the reason why we actually formed the ECOWAS is to free ourselves using our power as a bloc from this same sanction and from the control of Europeans and Americans, and to some extent the Chinese, and now the Indians. That is the only reason. That's the only reason why we formed the ECOWAS. In other words, we want to maximally exploit our strength in number. Yes, here we are now divided. Why? Because the 15 states of ECOWAS are all, whether in military uniform or in civilian uniform, not really thinking with the head. Seriously, the ball is actually in the court of ECOWAS. Our role is to mount pressure on the ECOWAS to allow West African electorate to directly vote for their ECOWAS members of parliament, as does those in the European Union, so that the ECOWAS can live up to the dreams, wills, and aspirations of the people of West Africa. On this note, I want you all to join as the ECOWAS citizens' right advocate to save our ECOWAS. I believe, having come this far, you might have gained a lot in what we've shared with you. And you will not hesitate to go down there to subscribe for membership, so that anytime we come up with very educational, inspiring, and inciting videos like this, that you are able to understand the challenges and the situations in advance, because you can now see that there is more to what you get than what you think you are supposed to be getting after listening to us. And don't forget, like and share, and more importantly, your comment. Please put them in, and I promise you we're going to reply to every one of your comments. On this note, I want to bid you a wonderful, beautiful day.